Welcome back, Beans Army, to another episode of the Less is More Sports Podcast, the college offseason podcast, where you could say we're less of the regular season, but more of the offseason. It's that time of year again.
But wait,
You're all
what
what?
happens in 2 weeks when the season comes back? Then are we just the college regular season podcast? How does this work?
I mean, we focus more on basketball and like recruiting and stuff like that. So
We're not
we
even going
are
to
the
talk.
college offseason podcast.
Uh, we gotta talk about football at some point.
Well, I mean, there's still recruiting in football. There's still coaching moves in football, like even during the season. So I mean, yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay.
off-season stuff. It's just we don't talk about the regular season games until after the season's over.
Okay.
It's I don't know. I feel like the name of the podcast kind of gave it away. The college offseason podcast.
Sort of. I think.
Anyways, anyways, time to get into everyone's favorite section of the podcast for the year. It is officially cap or no cap season. Y'all know the drill. Just a quick reminder. We love all of our listeners, but this is one of the few episodes that if you are listening on the Spotify channel, you might want to switch over to the YouTube channel just to see all the crazy hats Matt and I are about to put on. And today we are capping or no capping the 2023 college football season. So without further ado, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to get right into the first narrative. Matt, number one, Georgia makes it a three-peat.
You know what? This one was probably the hardest question to answer because I don't think that's no cap for me. That's no cap. And I know that the last team to win three straight national championships was the 1934 through 36 Minnesota Golden Gophers, a team we all fondly remember and love. But there's just something about this Georgia team. I know Carson Beck is new at this starting position, but if there's any place you want to do that, it's in his spot because there is like a Santa Claus naughty and nice list of like weapons Georgia's got. You've got Brock Bowers. You've got Ra Ra Thomas. You've got Lad McConkey. You've got Dominic Lovett. You've got Oscar Delp, who's probably going to have a breakout. And who knows who else is hiding on a roster like this one. It's that deep. It's that talented on offense. Even if Carson Beck comes out and plays like, oh, I don't know, Nathan Peterman, he's probably going to end up okay with as many weapons as
Ooh, shade.
that
Shade to
Georgia.
Nathan Peterman.
He knows what he knows it. I think he's cool with it. Even if Carson Beck comes out there and plays poorly, that offense will just I don't think they're going to let him fail. And yeah, I know on the defense we've talked about it. They've lost a lot, but they've also got some just amazing playmakers. You've got Javon Bullard, you've got Tyke Smith, you've got Smokey Bowie who transferred in from TAMU. They're the secondary, and up front there's still Chambliss. You've got Amarius Mims. You've got Nazir Stackhouse, who's like the heart and soul now, going to take over for that like Texas Georgia defensive line guy. They're going to be fine. They've got good as a chance as that Minnesota team to win that third straight national championship. We were even questioning whether or not they were going to win their second in a row. So you know what? Why not say they're going to win three? Because I mean the playoff format, somebody good that they could beat them's got to get eliminated, like Ohio State by somebody else or somebody's going to eliminate somebody. That's the bottom line. I think it's very possible. I'm going to say that's no cap that they can three-peat.
So I don't have to go into some spiel about how good I think Georgia is. Anyone who listens to the podcast knows that I predicted Georgia would be the Alabama of this decade. Georgia's going to be good. I think Carson Beck's going to be good. And if he isn't, you got Brock Vandergrift waiting in the wings.
Yep.
But I'm capping it because my preseason pick is the USC Trojans, and here's why. Look, year one of the Lincoln Riley era, they sold the house on offense. They went 11-3, coached the Heisman winner, had the third best offense in college football. But there was one problem. They had the 94th ranked defense in college football. So what did they do? They hit the portal. Bear Alexander, Mason Cobb, Jack Sullivan. 8 of their 14 transfers came in on the defensive side. They have the 7th ranked recruiting class with 8 defenders. And you know what's best of all? They still got their offense. Reigning Heisman winner, he's back. Brendan Rice, a.k.a. Jerry Rice's son, he's back. Austin Jones, he's back. Dorian Singer and Marshawn Lloyd transferred in. 3 new offensive linemen transferred in. Plus, you got Zach Branch and Deuce Robinson as freshman playmakers. You give a team with this offense, a defense that is no longer a liability against a middle school team, there isn't a team that can stop them. And that's just all I have to say about that. Are you ready to move on to number 2, or do you got more to add?
No, I'm ready to move on to number 2.
Number 2, teams feel effects from conference realignment.
I mean, obviously that's no cap. I mean, what's going on with conference realignment is you're asking a kid who plays for, in some cases, who plays for Rutgers to go all the way across the country and play at USC and probably lose pretty badly. So obviously the players are feeling it, but I also feel like this is a half cap situation because I feel like the fans are the ones, especially this season, who are feeling a little bit more nostalgic about, oh my God, it's the last civil war between Oregon and Oregon State. It's the last this and that. When like half of the rivalries that we've come to know are still going to continue. It's the fans, I think, who feel more nostalgic about it from a purely football standpoint because players, they've probably got one goal, and that's beat whoever's in front of you, stay undefeated, make the playoffs. I think the nostalgia about this season when it comes to like rivalries and stuff is just purely because it's the last one with like a lot of minor rivalries. I mean, the Holy War is going to continue into Big 12. We're only really losing like 2 or 3 rivalry games every year, and I'm sure if Georgia Tech can schedule Georgia every year, that Oregon can schedule Oregon State every year is like the last week of the season. I feel like from a fan standpoint, we've got our romanticism goggles on because we don't like the mega conferences taking over, but it's really not going to change that much. This is the last year of the 14 playoff. It's the last year of the normal conferences, if you will. And I feel like once we adjust to that, it's going to be like every other season. We're just going to be excited to watch college football, and the rivalries will still be there. Now, from a player standpoint, of course, they're feeling the effects. But the good news is, as these schools realign and try to make more money, at least now some of the players are getting a cut. And I know it's not the same through every sport. There's no way a person playing softball is going to make as much as Bear Alexander will playing for USC, and that does stink. And I know that the
But that's life.
travel and
That's
that
life.
is life, and it does stink. And I totally feel for people who are doing that, who feel that way, who are going to have like a little bit rougher travel schedule, and it doesn't make as much sense. But at the end of the day, from the fan standpoint, we'll adjust, and a lot of the players will adjust. Unless I'm just going to tell you this now, if we had more time, I'd be getting into how the NCAA football is just going to break off anyway and form its own like minor league NFL in a few years. But that's a story for another time.
We'll
But
do an
I think
episode on
that's
that.
yeah, we will. I think that's a half cap, though. I think that's a half cap.
So I'm going to no cap this one. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be one of two things that happens, if not both. Either I think teams will be distracted from all the moving pieces, or
Hmm.
teams will be wanting to go out of their conference with a bang. And that alone will bring some extra motivation to each team week in and week out. So with everything, all the noise going on in the background, I think it's easy to say that teams are going to hear that because one of the biggest myths that we believe as fans is that players don't hear what we say. They do. They hear what we say. Do they often care? No, but they hear it. So with all these moving pieces, all this noise going on in the background, you can't help but to think it's going to affect something. But to what degree, we as fans aren't going to know because we're not around these guys every day. But yeah, it's definitely going to take effect. So that's wraps up everything I have to say about that narrative. Are we ready to move on to number 3?
Yes. And I'm going to go first.
All right. Number 3, Texas is back.
I mean, it's no cap, and there are just times where I shut up and let you talk. So this is one of those times. So, Les, the floor is yours.
I actually don't have as much to say about this as you might think.
Hmm.
Obviously, for me, it's no cap. But
Yeah.
if what Texas does this year surprises you, you haven't been paying attention. Since Sark got hired, despite the on the field result at times, he has taken the all gas, no brakes mentality very seriously. He's made great coaching hires. He's had top 10 recruiting classes annually. He's landed key transfers. And in year 3, this is the year where it all comes together. We saw improvements from year 1 to year 2, and in this year, I'm gonna risk it to get the biscuit. In their final year in the Big 12, they will win the conference and make the college football playoff. I'm calling it now. They have too good of a roster, too good of a coaching staff, and they actually have experience at key positions, which was something that plagued them last year. Texas is back. Get used to it. And trust me when I say and especially since they just landed Colin Simons the other day, hook 'em horns, baby, they are going to be fine in the SEC. It'll be a little harder to win the conference, obviously, but they're going to be right there. So Texas is officially back, and I'm loving it.
Okay, that went about as well as I thought.
That went right out as you thought? I thought it was going to be a little shorter. I thought you'd expect me to go on for like 5 minutes straight.
No, I wasn't expecting that. That was about what I expected.
Fair enough. So are we ready to move on to number 4?
Yes.
Number 4, Florida State will win the ACC.
I feel bad because you told people to like watch this video for the caps. And once again, the cap is not being picked up because that's no cap for me. I mean, you've had constant improvement under Mike Norvell now. You've still got Jordan Travis. And I know this is a dangerous statement to make. I know the danger that comes with the statement. But much like Texas, this roster of Florida State is just too talented to totally fail, in my opinion. You've still got the giant Johnny Wilson at wide receiver. They add Keon Coleman from Michigan State. Trey Benson nearly had a 1,000-yard season last year to go along with Jordan Travis. And then you add like a little transfer by the name of Jaheim Bell, plays tight end. He's okay.
He's all right.
I think he'll end up being pretty good. Yeah, it may not be that important. But that defense, I feel like we're not talking about them enough, too. They've got a very good defense. You've got Verse defensive end. You go out and get Braden Fisk from Western Michigan. He's very good. And Gilbert Edmond. No one should shake a stick at him. That's a very good front. You add Patrick Payton. He's coming back from a tenacious freshman year. I think he was the ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year. He had a lot of sacks. He's very good. Oh, and that secondary did lose Jamie Robinson. That could be a problem. Oh, wait, no. We got an all ACC quarterback by the name of Fentrell Cypress coming in. He's also pretty damn good. Now, this is not to knock Clemson. I'm not saying Clemson, your time is done. They've still got a very good roster in Klubnik and Will Shipley. It's a two-horse race in the ACC, but it's hard for me to bet against that Florida State offense. I think they're very good. They're going to be even better with the transfers they've added in. I believe in Jordan Travis, and I'm saying it's no cap that Florida State will win the ACC.
You ready?
Yeah.
So obviously, I'm also no capping this, and I promise you, the caps will come. Florida State went 10-3 last year. They had a top 21 offense and defense, and pretty much all their key players returned, and not to mention the additions that you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a hot take to say that. But what I do think is the hot take is who their biggest threat is going to be. It's not going to be Clemson. It's not going to be North Carolina. But it's going to be the Duke Blue Devils. And here's why. Clemson looks like they're regressing and regressing hard since losing both coordinators. They don't play with the same aggression we're used to seeing under a Dabo Swinney coach team. UNC, until proven otherwise, can't stop a middle school team. Duke, let me tell you, might be the best kept secret in the Power 5. This team in their previous 2 seasons under David Cutlip won 5 total games. 5 in 2 years. Year 1 of the Mike Elko era, won 9 games, including a bowl win. Basically, everyone is back. But what's crazy is how people still aren't recognizing them. Riley Leonard is currently the 22nd ranked player in the ACC, according to ACC Network. If there are 21 players better than him, I'd love to see him. Duke is going to be very sneaky good and can sneak up on a lot of people this year if they aren't careful. Clemson, Notre Dame, I'm talking to you. Duke is here for the first time in I don't know how long. I mean, we might have to go back to 2014 when they played Johnny Manziel, which I have yet to watch that documentary on Netflix, by the way, and I hear it's really good.
I love it.
Oh, it's really good? I'm going to have to watch it after the show. And we blew a 21-point halftime lead to Johnny Manziel in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. But this Duke team, there was a tweet a while back that I shared, and I saved it on my phone, that there is a storm brewing in Durham, North Carolina, and it's here. Duke could be a serious problem in the ACC this year, and I think they will be Florida State's biggest threat in the ACC.
I knew that was coming, and yet I'm still disappointed. All right, next one.
Next one, number 5. The Big Ten is Michigan's or Ohio State's to lose.
That's no cap, of course. I mean, we all know, but I'm leaning Michigan. I know people are talking about Ohio State. I know they have Marvin Harrison Jr., who looks like he could literally rule the world right now. But I'm sticking with Michigan. I mean, Michigan's won the past couple seasons. They're primed to go on another little run here. JJ McCarthy's good. Blake Corum is back. He's hopefully healthy. Donovan Edwards, I'm sorry, just absolutely dominated last year. The receiving core is a bit of a question. I think that Roman Wilson is due for a little bit of a breakout year. I hope that happens, but it's not a pass happy offense, and you've got two guys in Edwards and Corum who I'll say again, if they're healthy, are going to just be absolutely amazing. I love that they added a player who I had a man crush on in AJ Barner, formerly of the Indiana Hoosiers. Really good tight end. I think he's going to be good. Their defense is fine. They've got the same guys coming back, and they've added a group of really good young players at key positions. But what I really think sets Michigan apart from Ohio State is their offensive line just continues to be like one of the greatest offensive line units in a good while. You've still got Zach Zinter. You've still got Trevor Keegan. Drake Nugent came in from Stanford. He's a top 10 center in college football. Miles Hinton, I believe, also came over from Stanford. And Ladarius Henderson, who's an immediate starter on the offensive line. For a team that has that talented of a running core already, to add in those guys via the transfer portal, in addition to the guys you still have, I think sets you apart because that's what's done Ohio State in over the past couple years. They've always had flashy receivers and a pretty good quarterback, but Michigan has dominated in the trenches, and they've gone out and they're making sure that they still dominate in the trenches with the guys they've brought in and the guys who are returning. So that's no cap, obviously. Once again, it feels like this is another two-horse race in college, even though they're going to have to play each other to advance. I don't see, unless Wisconsin is a lot more explosive than I think they are, or Illinois proves to be a little bit more explosive than I think they are. I can't see either one of those teams out west beating the winner of the Big Ten East, and to me, that's going to be Michigan again. I think this is their time to go on a little streak just based on that offensive line and a hopefully healthy running game.
It's coming on. But it's not because that I don't think they're the favorites. They clearly are. But there's a team in Madison, Wisconsin that I think could give them a run for their money. In the first year for new head coach Luke Fickell, he's built quite the team in such a short time. Several of his players from Cincinnati transferred over. Star running back Braylon Allen is back. But the key is transfer quarterback Tanner Mordecai, who in each of the last two seasons with SMU passed for more than 3,500 yards and 33 touchdowns apiece. And I feel like Billy Mays when I say this, but wait, there's more. The key that's going to unlock all of this is the hiring of new offensive coordinator Phil Longo, who spent the last 4 seasons working with the likes of Sam Howell, Drake May. I'd say they were pretty good college quarterbacks.
I think you just dissed Drake May, though.
I didn't diss Drake May. I dissed their defense.
Yeah. Okay.
Drake May doesn't play defense. Drake May is awesome.
I know he's a quarterback, but still.
This is not going to be our parents' Wisconsin team, the little ground and pound 4 yards in a cloud of dust that we're used to seeing with all those great Wisconsin backs dating back to Ron Dayne. This is going to be a high-powered offensive Wisconsin team that, as we know, can play defense. And top it off, they have a defensive-minded head coach. So Wisconsin can seriously give Ohio State and Michigan a run for their money. However, I do agree with Matt that if I had to pick one winner today, it would be Michigan, and it is because of the hog mollies up front.
Hog mollies. I did see that, and I almost included it, but it's like that probably would confuse a lot of people. So I'm just going to back off for now and just praise the guys individually.
See, I did the smart thing and waited for you to praise them individually so I could say it.
Oh, that's good. So there's context when you do it. That's a nice idea, actually. Yeah.
That is the key to everything. You have to wait for the context to come before you strike the joke.
Context
is key.
Exactly.
Anyways, on to number 6. And I feel like this is going to be one of our favorite topics to talk about, just given where we stand about a certain individual on this podcast. Number 6, Colorado and Coach Prime make a bowl game in year 1. Yo, we got a
That's
cap for
cap.
Matt.
That's cap. Yeah, I have a UL Lafayette cap because we support the mid majors.
You support
Go Rage, go Raging Cajuns, and shut up, Les. Yeah, it's cap Les, and I hate to do it to Deion Sanders, but my God, those first 5 games, you open up with TCU, who got boat raced in a national championship game, still was in the national championship game, and beat the Michigan team. We both almost beat the exact same Michigan team we picked to win the Big Ten right now. Still a pretty good team. So I mean, looking at the game, I'm just trying to be objective here. I mean, I could. They're probably going to be 1-4, or 2-3, just to start, because it takes a while to get to get it up and running. I mean, you're a new coach. You're a new coach. That's just how rough it is. You've run a lot of transfers, but I still think they're going to be better than last year because, like we said, all it takes is winning 2 games to be better than last year.
Yeah, that's
And
improvement.
yeah, it is improvement, but a bowl game, that's too much for me. A bowl game is too much for me. I mean, you look at those first 4 games. You got TCU in week 1, not exactly an easy game. Then you go to then you got Nebraska. Nebraska, that's a toss up to me. You've got Matt Rule versus Deion Sanders. That's going to be appointment television. You get Colorado State. There's your win, and then you welcome in Oregon and USC. Oof. If you're picking USC to win the national championship, less then they're not going to win that one. And then you throw in a couple other games. I mean, the Big 12 is pretty good. You still got Utah you've got to go through. Utah's going to be
Pac-12,
pretty good.
Pac-12.
Pac-12, whatever they are, they might as well be the Big 12 now.
Hmm.
You've still got you've still got Utah. You've still got to go through Oregon State, who's actually going to be pretty good this year, unfortunately. DJ Uiagalelei is going to have that team rocking probably. And you've still got Washington, but we're going to get to Washington and what makes them go. So there you go. You've already got a couple losses there. And
I don't
UCLA.
think Colorado plays Washington. I don't think.
You don't think? Oh,
No, they don't play Washington.
oh, they avoided Washington. Wow. Still have
Hmm.
UCLA though. UCLA is pretty good. I think they're going to fall just short. I see this as a 4 or 5 win team. They're going to just because it takes a while to get acquainted with being a head coach, getting the game plan, and just playing in that conference. It's a tough year for them. So I'm going to say they win 4 or 5 games. It's very close. Travis Hunter, I mean, we know he's good. We know Shadur Sanders is good. But I just think it's going to take more time to adapt with all of the fluid movements they've had on that roster to find that groove in a tough year with a very competitive conference. So I'm putting them at 4 or 5 wins right now, and that's just to me cap to say they're going to make a bowl game right off the bat.
How dare you? Because we love Coach Prime on this podcast, and it is no cap that they will make a bowl game in year one. I look at the roster that he's built during that crazy transfer exodus, and looking at this team, looking at how Shadur Sanders is looking right now in practices, looking at how Travis Hunter is looking in practices right now, I can confidently say that I only see them confidently losing 4 games. Oregon, USC, Oregon State, and Utah. I think they will beat TCU in the first game of the season. I can see them beating UCLA. And I think the Buffaloes could have one of the bigger turnarounds in recent memory. But to be fair, like you said, man, the Pac 12 is tough this year. We all know about USC, Utah, and Oregon. But like you said, Oregon State could be a real problem. I mean, they went 10-3 last year with the 16th rated defense, and they
Yep.
didn't even have a quarterback that threw over 10 touchdowns. Now you
Yep.
insert DJ Uyangale. And we've seen what the Pac 12 can do to revitalize someone like Bo Nix's name. Now let's see if the once highly touted prospect can do the same. But
Yep.
yes, that is no cap for me. Are we ready to move on to number 7?
Yeah, I'm ready if you're ready.
Number 7, the Alabama dynasty is done.
That's cap. I know, Les, you're going to disagree with me here, but how many times have we said, oh, the Patriots dynasty is done? Or the Warriors dynasty is done? And then what happens? We were like, oh, they're dead, they're washed up. And then they come back and win a championship game. I'm not saying it's going to be like it used to be, where every year they're winning a national championship. I'm just saying I don't trust any dynasty to be dead until the ringleader goes away, whether it be Tom Brady, whether it be Steph Curry, and in this case, whether it be Nick Saban. I'm not going to pronounce any dynasty dead until I know that like the people behind it are actually not actively trying anymore. And until I see the proof of that at Alabama, I'm going to cap it just because I don't want to look stupid and proclaim something that I've hated dead and proclaim something that I've disliked dead for a long time and then have them come back and be absolutely in my face about it. So for me, that's cap. I just don't trust the vibes. I don't trust the vibes.
Well, you follow me on social media, correct?
Yes.
So you know that I have no problem taking heat from fans at all.
Yes. No.
And this is no cap because I've been on this podcast many times saying that Georgia will be in the 2020s what Alabama was in the 2010s. I stand by that. So good luck getting out of the SEC unscathed. But I watch Alabama, and similar to Clemson, since their last title, they do not play with the same intensity we're used to seeing from a Nick Saban coach team. And that usually comes when a coach gets older. It's harder to relate to his players. And he's in his 70s. It's getting to be about that time. They progressively got a worse roster, and that was arguably with the best quarterback Nick Saban's ever had. Yes, I said it. I'm talking about Bryce Young, the Heisman Trophy winner. Now, and if you mean to tell me that they're reaching out to Tyler Buchner to transfer as a potential starter, they're in trouble. Staying in the SEC, LSU is right there. Potential loss. Tennessee beat them last year. If their secondary isn't fixed, they could do it again. Because I think Joe Milton could have as good, if not better, of a year than Hendon Hooker last year. Arkansas is no one to mess around with. Auburn is a rivalry game, so you never know. And to top it off, the second game of the season, Texas will come to Bryant-Denny Stadium and beat Alabama to avenge last year's loss. And this time, if they want to continue that sick trend they have of injuring our quarterbacks, and they want Quinn Ewers to get hurt, we got Malik Murphy ready to go. Alabama, Nick Saban, your days are all but over. Period. End of story. Now I'm ready for the backlash. I can take it. I'm a Duke fan living in Kentucky. I can take some heat.
That was a nice wrestling promo, Les. All right.
Number 8, Caleb Williams will win back-to-back Heisman trophies.
I'm sorry to do this, but to me, that's cap again. I mean, I know I just picked Georgia the three-peat, and I know USC's offense has gotten better, but let's be honest, it's a narrative award, and there's going to be another narrative that people hook onto that they love, whether it's Blake Corum coming back from his MCL sprain or injury and leading Michigan back to the Big Ten championship while rushing behind that offensive line, whether it's Michael Penix taking like the lowly Washington Huskies and Kellen DeBoer's offense to a new level and just looking amazing in it. I think that it's going to be somebody else. There are going to be two, or a guy Drake May. Maybe he does some stuff in North Carolina that looks really good. I'm going to say that we haven't. It's still been since Archie Griffin that we had a back-to-back Heisman winner, and I still think that people will get hooked on another narrative. USC will go from like beloved in the first year of the Lincoln Riley era to back where they usually are, which is universally pretty much disliked by everybody who's not on the West Coast, especially in the wake of the conference realignment landscape. I think that it's going to be either a Michael Penix. I think Caleb Williams will be in the top 3 or however many finalists there are. But I think it's more likely to go to a guy like Blake Corum, Michael Penix, Drake May, than it is to him for a second straight year. But he will be there at the ceremony.
The Homer train continues. And here's why. As you all know, I changed my caps up for this one. And look, Caleb Williams is going to be great, but he's got a Heisman. We expect him to be great. And we only got about 8 minutes left, so I'm going to hurry through this. But my pick to win the Heisman is Quinn Ewers. People forget that last year was Quinn Ewers' first meaningful football since his junior year of high school. Another year in the Sarkisian flood offense with the best offensive line to date in the Sark era. There won't be as much of a run emphasis with Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson gone, although the run game will still be respectable, don't get me wrong. And he has all kinds of weapons to throw to. Xavier Worthy is back, and his hand isn't broken. Jay Witt is back. Isaiah Nayor is healthy. Someone we didn't see last year. A.D. Mitchell transferred in. Young guys like Jonte Cook and Casey Kane are waiting in the balance. Plus, J.T. Sanders, I have as the second best tight end in college football. We saw flashes in year one. Year two, he puts it all together, and he has the weapons to do so. But if not, my second choice is actually Joe Milton. A quarterback with a big arm and a system is scary, and he knows if he doesn't perform, Pajamas is waiting to take his job. So that wraps up mine. Number 9, Jimbo Fisher is on the hottest hot seat.
That's a half cap for me. I mean, he's 60-39 since he was hired. He's got a very lucrative deal. We've known what's been going on there. That highly ranked number 1 overall recruiting class was one of the biggest busts we've seen, losing to Appalachian State, finishing 5-7. They've even been willing to take on Bobby Petrino to try and get that offense back, and we all know what that usually results in, and it's a headache. It's a very tough schedule. They go to Tennessee for one of their cross-conference games in addition to playing their normal SEC West schedule. But the reason it's a half cap is although that seat is hot, it might as well be made up of burning money. Because if you try to get rid of him, if they win fewer than 8 games, if you try to get rid of him, you're going to end up paying him $70 million. So for me, this is a half cap. He should have one of the hottest seats in college football, given the resources that he has allotted, given the pedigree that he has. But because of that $70 million, I don't think anyone's going to want to pay that. So that's a half cap for me.
I'm actually kind of shook because I expected you fully to say no cap. So when you half capped it, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little shook. But for me, it's cap. And I'm actually going to go with Neil Brown of West Virginia. The Mountaineers are coming off consecutive losing seasons for the first time since 1978 and the 79 season. He has 1 winning season in 4 years, and it's even resulted in former athletic director Shane Lyons losing his job because he didn't want to fire him. Simply put, West Virginia's got to win now. End of story. Anything short of a bowl win, he's gone. Period. So now, on to the last narrative of our coveted cap or no cap. And we got 5 minutes to go, so let's make this as quick as possible. Ole Miss will have the most explosive offense in college football.
That is a cap, yes. But I just want to take this opportunity to say, they're going to be one of the most entertaining offenses you're going to get to watch. Yes, I know they have 3 quarterbacks, but Jackson Dart is going to be fun. He's been pushed by the additions they brought in. And they have arguably one of, if not the best running back in college football in Quinshon Judkins. He's going to be exciting to watch. They've brought back Jordan Watkins at wide receiver. They've added Trey Harris from LA Tech, which means Louisiana Tech, and UTSA's Zachary Franklin. They're going to be good if they pop off. They're going to be extremely good. Their tight end position is going to be electric with Michael Trigg and Cade Preekson, who came over from Memphis. And when you combine that with the offensive mind of Lane Kiffin, you're going to have a really fun offense to watch. Are they the most explosive? No, that's cap. But are they going to be really fun to watch in the SEC West? And could they mix some things up? Yes, they could. And so I just want to say that I like Quinshon Judkins a lot, and I hope that he is one of the Heisman contenders going in. But as for the most explosive offense, I'm going to say no, that's cap. Are they going to be entertaining as hell? That's no cap. But they're not going to be the most explosive.
Going to end this podcast on a cap. And don't get me wrong, I don't think they're going to have a bad offense by any stretch. But I'm a little worried about that quarterback situation and the drama that unfolds from that. 2 quarterbacks transferred in, and they already have a solid option there. There's just something not right about this. You know, I've been advocating in past podcasts that I expected Spencer Sanders to start, but now I'm hearing it'll be Jackson Dart. So I don't know. Whoever it is, they'll probably be fine. But I look at teams that I think could have just as good, if not better, of an offense. Just off the top of my head, USC, Texas, Washington, Tennessee, but Oregon, Bo Nix came back. Wisconsin, yeah, I think they can. We know what Ohio State will do. And because we're at the end of the episode, it's not a less is more sports football episode unless we shout out Boise State, who I think can have one of the scariest offenses in the group of five. Taylon Green, aka Vince Young of the Mountain West, and that 1-2 punch at running back of George Holani and Ashton Jeanty will wreak havoc over the competition. And I'm going to go on record saying this, and you might think I'm crazy for this, and that's okay. Boise State has sneakily put a lot of players in the pros, and particularly at running back. I remember the Muscle Hamsters, the Jay Ajayis, the guy who's going to start for the Vikings this year, Alexander Madison. I remember Lee Marks in the early 2000s, and he was a good back. I remember Ian Johnson. But I think Ashton Jeanty is the best kept secret in college football. And I think he could be the best running back in Boise State history. He is that good. And especially with a new offensive coordinator who wants to center his game plan around Jeanty specifically, there's no telling. There's no telling how good he could be. I watched their spring game, and anytime he touches the ball, he's a threat to take it the distance. And this is a good Boise State defense, too. So they're nobody to shake a stick at. And Andy Avalos is a defensive-minded head coach. So to have a player like that just able to abuse your opposing defense in the spring game. And he almost finished with 1,000 yards as a true freshman. The only reason he was rated so low coming out of high school, because he had little to no football experience, because he was growing up in Italy, because he was an Army brat. Fun fact of the day. But anyways, that wraps up the Less is More Sports podcast, the 2023 edition of the Cap or No Cap. And I just want to be on record saying that this episode was brought to you by Godzilla Crocs.
Oh,
let's go! They finally came in, and it makes me so happy.
I knew they came in. I just didn't know you were going to use them as product placement.
I was saying I'm not going to be receiving any payment. Obviously, we're not actually sponsored by Godzilla Crocs. That's all a joke. I just had to carry it over because we did talk about it in the podcast.
I'm not happy.
You can be not happy, but you know what I am happy about? College football is almost here, baby. So tell us what you think of our cap or no cap narratives. Tell us what your thoughts are. Matt and I aren't always right, even though we're right majority of the time. Well, I am at least. But anyways, as always, like and subscribe to Less is More Sports YouTube and Spotify channel to get the latest updates of new content. Follow our social media pages at Less is More Sports on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, whichever you can find us at. And until next time, Matt, you got anything else you want to add? We got less than a minute.
No, other than if you're looking for a mid-major team that's not Boise State to check out, you need to be watching the UTSA Roadrunners. Frank Harris is a really exciting quarterback. That offense is explosive. Meep, meep.
Meep, meep. But until then, Matt and I are out.